And we are good to go with our first episode of I don't know what we're going to call this yet because
Something clever, I hope.
I hope so. I'm really
No,
not good with naming conventions.
no
So
pun intended on the hope part, but
but yeah, so I'm here and we're here together. My name is Luca and this is my buddy Obi,
what's going
and
on?
we are fans of the Vampire Diaries universe.
I would say that's a very good way to put it. I was going to
Yes.
correct you if you were to say we were fans of Legacies. I was going to say you mean the Vampire Diaries universe and everything up until until Legacies. I mean, we like Legacies because it is in that universe. Is why we put up with it.
It's got some issues.
It's got a lot of issues.
It's got some. So yeah, so I wanted to start this off by talking about our history with the Vampire Diaries universe and how we got into it, everything that we've watched up until this point. And I think you should go first when it comes to your history with the Vampire Diaries.
Well, my history with it is very, I wouldn't say secretive, but very alone. Like you're definitely one of the only people that I've met that really likes the show, probably as much as I do. And for me, I don't know how I got onto it. Oh, I was sitting on the couch one day back in high school because me and you were younger compared to our fellow peers that we have.
Yes.
And I was sitting on my couch and saw something that came up and said Vampire Diaries, and I was like, okay, what is this? And I think there was only 2 seasons, I think, on Netflix at the time. I think. And I pressed play on the first episode, and somehow now I'm here. I fell in love with it. I kept trying to get my friends to watch it and saying, "Hey, ignore the name. It has really nothing to do with diaries. If they talk about a diary, it's within like the first 30 seconds when it says Dear Diary, and like what they're feeling. It's kind of like a show's way of kind of catching you up with some things."
It's
And
actually because, okay, so for me, if I could cut you off real quick, but it is because Elena would write in her diary. See, I came from it from a different perspective as I watched the Vampire Diaries as it was airing. And I actually started watching it because I read the books first. Now,
really,
yeah, it was like it was my demographic,
yeah.
during that time it was like the Twilight, True Blood, super vampire craze,
And I
and
was just thinking about that
yeah.
last night. My drive is that I lived right by one of the shooting locations of Twilight.
Oh,
And
cool.
I was thinking about that the other day as I was driving out to my sister's graduation. I was like, every time I go past it, oh yeah, that's where they filmed Twilight, the little restaurant corner scene that they had in the first movie. That they were in like a small little diner.
Yeah.
The guys were playing catch out front. It's not too far from where I grew up, and so I was thinking to myself, God, people don't realize how far away Forks, Washington is from this part right here. I mean,
Yes.
that's a long ways to do a 5-minute scene. But I get the whole Twilight thing, that was definitely in our realm. That was what was really big going on, and everybody got kind of drawn into it.
Yeah, we were definitely super into the craze, and man, I read so many. I read the Sookie Stackhouse novels, which is what True Blood is based off of, and I read all of Twilight, and then I read the Vampire Diaries, and then there's other series that I read in the same vein, including a series that Julie Plec is actually working on, a Vampire Academy. I
Yeah, I
read those
saw
books
that.
as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that is, even though we are way past the stage of the vampire craze. So I wonder how she's going to do it, especially with some of the material in that book. It's, you know, they could get away with a lot of stuff back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, but this day and age, some of the material in that novel is going to it's not going to translate well.
Well, are
And
they going to keep
so,
it in the same universe?
it's so yeah, I mean, it should be a direct adaptation of that first novel. So,
Well, I meant like in the universe of TVD and the originals. Do you think it's going to be in that universe when
oh,
it comes to vampirism?
so okay, so what do you mean by that? Because Vampire Academy is like a separate.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's a separate. I haven't seen it. I
Hmm.
know that it's separate, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if she was going to try to make it weave into it being in the same universe as Vampire Diaries originals and Legacies.
No, it's not going to be in the same universe. It's going to be on a different network as well. I think Peacock, which okay, that show is probably going to end up failing, but whatever.
I mean,
uh,
yeah.
but it's going to be completely separate because the vampires in that series are called like Dehamfer or whatever. It's like a completely separate lore associated with
Okay.
all of that. So
Okay. Yeah, I was one of the first things I saw when that came out on all the fan pages I may or may not be a part of. Came out, I saw that people were freaking out that she had it, and I was more like, uh,
yeah, it's just
man.
I mean, like I said, it's unfortunate that she got it so late because there's no good way to adapt that series considering some of its material. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, getting back to the Vampire Diaries and Legacy. So I watched the Vampire Diaries, but since it came out when I was like in around middle school, high school, so I don't remember anything. That was like 11 years ago, and so I'm just kind of like,
Have you rewatched them at all?
no, I haven't rewatched it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I
Okay,
don't
so
remember. I don't remember anything.
I watch if ever I have something that I want to just have it on as background, I put on anywhere between season 2 and season 4 of Vampire Diaries. I'll just put on a random episode. What I have probably seen seasons 1 through 5 7 to 8 times easily. In the originals, I've seen all the way through probably 4 times. The first season, probably, I'd say probably 10 times actually, because I really liked that first season. But for me, there was one point where I got to that my girlfriend at the time, now wife, where I would always try to get her to watch it. And she'd always like, no, 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 I don't want to watch this because her sister watched it. And her sister told her, hey, this show is amazing. You should watch it. So she watched it all the way through. And of course, me being me, I had to watch it with her. But probably the biggest point in time for me watching that show, I think, was season 4, episode 20, where it was Klaus going to New Orleans and finding out that Haley was pregnant. And after the show, there was a quick commercial that was a preview for the upcoming spinoff of the originals. And I just remember the room that we were in, everybody screamed in happiness, like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was just like, it was a dream come true. I think that was my all-time high of being a fan of this show, thinking it just could only go up. And oh, the mighty have fallen.
uh, so I actually recently got back into the series. I watched the originals, God, maybe like a year ago.
Yeah.
Because I never actually got the chance to watch it when it was airing on TV, and so I was like, okay, I'm a fan of the Vampire Diaries. Let me go ahead and check this out. And I was actually surprised by how well written and well paced the originals was, and I was just kind of like, oh, this is like really good. And I ended up watching the full 5 seasons in a couple of weeks, and I was really happy with that. And then when I heard that there was another spinoff of that called Legacies, it was on season 2 at the time, so I started watching like season 2, episode 15. So I
Uh-huh.
guess near the last few episodes, I started watching Legacies, and I caught up with that in order to see the cut short season finale for season 2. And I really enjoyed Legacies. I did season 1 and 2. I had a good time with it. I understood that while it still attracted fans of the universe as a whole, its demographic is wholly different
Yeah, it
than
is.
especially different from the original. So
Yeah, and there's no drama, I feel like, involved in the show. There's random snippets of it, but they don't make you the only character that you're invested in realistically is Hope. Is the only character that you really, honestly, that I really even care about. I mean, I care about Lark too. I'll take those two. I care about them because they remind me of the old shows, but I don't. The other characters, I'm like, just I know I'm kind of bored of them in some ways. Yeah, some of the stuff could be
It's kind of
interesting.
difficult to feel
Yeah,
a connection, I guess, when
yeah, it is.
nothing's really happening to
Yeah,
them.
and
I mean, I love all the characters. I find all of them
I
to
think
be
that, and that's
interesting.
yeah, and I think that
Um,
they're good characters, and
yeah,
they're not bad actors by any means whatsoever. I just think that their material that they're getting doesn't pack. It's not packing a punch. I mean, because name a character that you weren't really fully invested in the other series. I mean, you were. It came down even like Matt, Tyler, even if they were in the back, you still things hit hard for them. Jeremy, I mean,
I mean, there
Jeremy
was a
comes,
genuine fear that something would happen to those
yeah,
characters,
and these other characters, I'm like,
And it doesn't feel like that with Legacies.
yeah,
I agree with that. I feel like they've trivialized death in Legacies to a point where it's just kind of like whatever. But let's talk about this. So the way that we're going to structure it, guys, is that I've already seen pretty much every episode of Legacies to this point. So I think what episode just came out? 315?
I think that's one it is.
Oh my god, I don't remember.
I'm trying to be fair and do one at a time.
It's the one where Hope and Josie are together and it's a cult. I'm trying to be as vague as I can so I don't spoil you. But yeah, that's basically where we're at, where I'm at. So I'm actually revisiting these episodes and we're going to go at them one at a time. But Obi has not seen the rest of the season. So he doesn't know what's going to happen. So it'd be interesting to hear his perspective and what he thinks is going to happen. And I will not spoil him or let him know one way or another if he's right. I'll just be like, okay.
Yeah, and see, as it is right now, I don't know. They started this first episode off with a filler episode, which is horrible. This episode 1 of season 3, usually which
I would like to note is technically episode 217 because they had because season 2 was slated.
You were saying that.
Yeah, season 2 was slated to be 20 episodes, but they had to cut it short because of the global panorama. So it was going to be 2, and then they had to push it back. So this 301 was supposed to be like 217. That's why it feels like nothing important happened.
That made that makes sense, because I was just like, so they're going like, is this not a season premiere? Or like there's none of the characters look like they've changed. Like, did they hold on? Okay, that answers a lot of questions. I'm gonna erase this part from my notes that I.
No worries whatsoever, man. But it's definitely convoluted. They're doing the same thing with season 3. They are pushing the last 4 episodes to season 4, so it's going to be done soon. Or the last 2 episodes, couple. I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't even know if I was gonna watch the show anymore until it was actually over, so I could just watch it, because this show, I watched the very first 2 episodes when they aired, and I thought to myself, I can wait. Wait.
Understandable.
Where the last ones, I was like, I had to see it. I'd watch the trailer for the upcoming episode like 3 or 4 times a week coming up to it, and just be hyped and be on all the Reddit pages and everything. And this show, I'm like, it took me a year to get through season 1. And then it took me maybe another year to get through season 2. And I just technically finished what they had listed on season 2 last week, because, we were going to start doing this show. And I thought, you know what? Just let me get into it. And I binged 3-4 episodes. I enjoyed them. And then this other one, but I'm excited to talk about this other one. I'm sure we're both excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I mean, let's get into it. Okay. Even after watching this episode again, I still don't understand why Hope wasn't able to wake up from Josie's subconscious, because like, if we were to, technically she's her mind is still in Josie's head, right?
Yep.
So why did she wake up when Landon kissed her? I don't know.
Why was it never even said that she was even locked in her mind? Because you're right, her subconscious was put in the stone in Josie's subconscious.
Yeah.
But there was nothing ever explaining that was fixed. I mean, they could have behind the scenes could have fixed it. but there was no mention of it.
Of how they fixed it. There's just nothing.
Yeah.
So I was really confused about why she wouldn't wake up. So you know, the show we're talking about We Are Not Worthy, 301. It opens. Landon's dead. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
And that was really dumb.
I don't care.
He should have been. Yeah. I was kind of hoping that was it for that character. I'm really, I don't know if that's hurtful.
No,
I
you
was
and me
hoping
both, big
for
dog.
it. And then I saw a picture for one of the other episodes that was like 5 or 6 down, and I saw his ugly mug on the thing, and I went, oh, no. And then I like how the episode started of him like writing an imaginary journal in the the afterlife, which is technically doesn't even exist anymore. So why they even had him there makes no sense to me. There is no more plane for supernatural creatures. So
well, I mean, if we want to talk about things that don't make any sense to the lore, we can talk about how the apparent we can talk about the Ascendant, how they have an endless supply of Bennett blood just chilling, just hanging around, you know?
Yeah, and then but I will say what's clever about this though, when I watched, not to get away from this episode, but when watching that episode and this is where I want to say that whoever writes the stuff for Kai did a really well job. Him going and researching, finding anybody named Bennett and looking for them, whoever donated blood for anything, that was smart. That was a smart writing tool that they did, that he said, oh, like, why did he never think about that before? Bennett blood. Somewhere in the world with all the Bennett witches, there should have been blood in a hospital that was donated from a Bennett witch. I mean, it kind of makes sense. 1 in a million, it was Bonnie's blood. You know, how often was Bonnie in a hospital? I don't think Bonnie would be donating blood, but her mother could have easily. Her mother wasn't really a witch. You know, she wasn't really into that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought that was a cool.
Like, yeah, it's like this show has good writing sometimes, but then they'll do episodes like that Christmas episode.
Oh god.
That was so bad. Like I was like, God, this is like really bad. But let's to get back on point.
So I want to say this, starting at the beginning of the show with this, one of the first things I have on my notes is that Alaric has given his speech. I believe this is where kind of the episode starts. Alaric has given his speech, right? And everybody's being mad at Josie, which I find hypocritical of this school. For people to be mad at anybody at this school for them trying to kill them or whatnot, you're in a school full of vampires, witches, and werewolves, and who are not killing each other. When there are cities that are like in wars with each other with 3 factions. You know what I mean?
You have to note that they're very sheltered because they grew up in that school. And also, I mean, Alyssa, she makes a point. Like, the difference is that Josie didn't face any consequences for being let back in. You know? Like, she kind of went on a rampage, and even though it was a goofy rampage, she didn't. She killed Alyssa, but that doesn't even matter because there's no consequences to Alyssa being dead. You know, because she was able to come back. Like she's.
And
back,
I was kind of hoping that character would stay dead too.
So yeah, so you know, I understand Alyssa's point, but there is a double standard there because Josie is Alaric's kid, so it's like he's like, yeah, it's fine, sweetie.
Wasn't she the one that locked them, put them away in the prison world also, and was trying to
she did
destroy it and kill all of them? And
Alyssa did do. You know what? Never mind. You're right. She did that. There was no consequences. I forgot. Oh my god, you're right.
Hypocritical. Wow. That's what I put everybody be mad at Josie. Hypocritical, right? And so
okay, that's a good point. Alaric is a terrible headmaster. They need to like replace him. With another supernatural. I think that would work a lot better.
There needs to be a Dumbledore there, that's for sure. But so that led to them having a field day. Now, when he said field day, I had the biggest eye roll, right? I was like, are you kidding me right now?
I feel like Legacies is so, like, even though the Vampire Diaries was also set in high school, there was just a different vibe to it, you know? Like Legacies feels like they're in high school, you know what I mean?
It does.
With their issues and stuff.
It would have been more interesting if the show was actually taking place and at I think, is it Mystic Falls High? Is that what they
Yes,
call it?
Mystic Falls. Yeah.
So it'd be more cool if he was the principal of that and he knew about all of these supernatural beings and would hold like after school classes, but would have them learn to mingle with society. I think the show probably would have been a lot better that way and had them actually be in sports. Because as much as they try to make it a school, I sit there and think about how they've ruined the Salvatore house every time I'm
Yeah.
watching it, right? And
Yeah. I
then
mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's a disconnect there in regards to the society that they're in and the fact that they go to the school. And it's like, okay, it's years later and it's probably a little bit different, a little bit safer in some ways, but since Triad exists, probably not. Okay. I just like, I don't
you think
know.
about how many times that whole city has been ran through by vampires. You remember
Exactly.
in season 6, or I think it was season 6, when the siphon vampires came in, and they basically ran everybody out of town. The whole town was just nothing but vampires. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's like this. The town is no stranger to that. I think the town plays dumb, but
Yeah,
that's a whole
I think so too.
that's a whole other thing. One of the things I wrote down for the field day is how the hell can Alaric afford this whole setup on this budget? Like, how much money does
Honestly,
Klaus actually have?
I don't know. I mean, okay, Klaus probably has a lot of money, to be honest. It's definitely, I mean, there's like some inconsistencies in general when it comes to like their financial situations,
It
to be
it is.
honest.
It's like it's just they had one episode that kind of addressed it. I think it was season 1. That if Hope didn't exist, what would the school be like, right? And
If
it was
Hope didn't exist, it would be Rundown. Yeah, that was
yeah,
the Lizzie Saltzman Legacies, that was a really good episode,
yeah.
actually.
I mean, it was a good episode, but it was just like the Salvatore money could only go so far.
Yeah,
You know what I
which
mean?
mhm.
And that begs the thing. Another thing, like what the hell is Damon doing? Why can't Ian make an appearance to have a drink or a phone call with Alaric? Just have a phone call with him. That's something I feel like the show needs. Like, have a phone call with Ian. It doesn't even have to be him. It could be like, the episode starts and you see Alaric talking on the phone. It's like, well, it's good to hear from you, buddy. All right, later, Damon. And he'd be like, oh, who's that? Oh, old buddy. That'd be cool. Something like
Yeah.
that,
Hmm.
But because I feel like they try to act like all these characters that are very, very important in the universe just don't exist anymore. And I hate it.
Yeah,
Um,
completely understandable. So
and then,
yeah,
go
so
ahead.
going through the episode some more when it comes to, before we get to the field day part, well, let's get to the monster of the week.
Oh
Okay.
my
So
God.
I am a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. So the monster of the week formula does work and can work depending on how it's written and how engaging it is. I'm also, me and you are both Supernatural fans.
Oh
So,
yeah.
we were, and that deals with the monster of the week formula up until a point, right? So,
Yep.
the monster of the week is the Lady of the Lake, which is very cool. Very cool. Here's the issue.
I
It
I keep saying it. See, I have Lady of the Lake cringe.
Yeah, it's listen, this it doesn't matter. That's what the issue is. Okay? That's what the issue, because none of these monsters that come through, none of them are actually scary to the point where it matters, and I actually feel worried about our crew, right? So it's like, okay, Landon's dead again, whatever, we talked about this. I don't care. He's died so many times. He's just trivialized the fact that he's dead. Raph is the only one who can see Landon because he's connected to him through the necromancer. I'm bored of the necromancer. I don't care about the
Oh my
necromancer.
God.
He has worn out his welcome as well. So I
Yeah.
didn't care about this plot. I was like, whatever with that. Then we move on to the actual field day. MG and Lizzie are talking, and Lizzie is talking about how she has to go back to her
Inner bitch.
bullying ways. Yeah. And she comes through, she bullies all the other girls, all the other witches, that is, in order to protect Josie. Which, honestly speaking, I'm just kind of like, All right, like I mean, listen, understand that this is a teen show, but when I say I don't give a fuck. I don't care. All right, I truly, deeply from the bottom of my heart, I mean it, man. I don't care about this. I don't care about this B plot, and which is unfortunate because I do care. I really like these characters. Genuinely, I like these characters. I think Josie, Lizzie, and Hope are the ones that I am most interested in. I think they have interesting characteristics, but like when it comes to the scenarios that they're placed in, I don't give a fuck. Also, it's like, take Wade for instance. Wade is like the joke of the show, right? He's a fairy,
Yes.
and they just like have him in these really weird situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't. I
Oh,
don't.
I'm holding Excalibur.
Yeah, he was like hitting like a hitting what is that thing called? Like
It's a sandbag.
a sandbag for what? For what? Like why? You
Exactly.
know?
I mean, you're right. Exactly. That's one of the that's perfect. This is one of my notes. Is that there's not with this show. There's never a edge of your seat moment. There's never where is in the Vampire Diaries something could happen any second. A Damon could snap and break Jeremy's neck, or a Klaus could kill his 12 hybrids, or Elijah could kill every vampire in the city type of deal, at any given moment at any time. And this show is no character brings you fear and love at the same time, because everybody feared Klaus, but they loved him. Everybody feared Elijah, but they loved him at the same time.
Yeah. There's
What's
no
that?
flavor. Where's the flavor at? It's not here. It's pretty bland. Like
Yeah.
it's insane to me because this show is Legacies, and it's like them having Josie and Lizzie be siphon witches opens up so many doors in which where they can go in regards to storytelling. Hope being a tribute. First of all, the idea that she has not been attacked by anyone is completely baffling to me. Like anyone from her father's past,
Exactly.
like the Michelsons were reigning terror.
Well, okay, but let me back this up though.
Mhm.
If you remember, since you recently just watched this, what did Klaus spend 5 years doing in the time that he was having to stay separated?
Killing. Obi just hopped out of the stream. But
I think
yeah, hello? You good?
I think I hit one of my buttons. Anyways, I say I gotta repeat myself. What was he doing in that 5 years of having to be separated from the entire family, from Hope, everything? If you remember, Caroline walked in on him, and he had just murdered an entire family that was on a list that he knew that had a vendetta against him.
Yeah.
And there was rumors going around that she said Hope is hearing them, the school's hearing them, that the great Klaus Michelson is off his rocker.
But this is, and then she was like, "But you don't seem crazy, you know?" Yeah, okay,
that's how he put it.
And I understand that, but there still would have to be more people.
Oh yeah, there's got to be tons more. But I think he put a big dent in the list of people that he thinks would be a threat to his daughter. But also, another thing is you have to think something they don't ever talk about is Marcel and Rebecca are now the two strongest beings in the world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Rebecca took the
no, not yet. She's waiting for Elena to live out her mortal life.
Oh, okay.
Because I just watched. This is how much of a stupid fan I am. Last week, I watched the goodbye that Klaus had from all his family members, Marcel, Rebecca, and all them. And he told Rebecca, after a few decades, if you still want to, you could go to Mystic Falls and get the cure, because it's in Damon right now. So they are waiting for Damon and Elena to live out their life, and then Rebecca's going to take it after she's had about 60 years or so with Marcel. That's how that was going to play out from how I understood the last of the show. And you think it's only been a year, maybe two, since Klaus died. So there's still 58 more years to go of Hope having, Marcel, who will never take the cure. I guarantee it.
He's never taking it.
He's never going to take it. He is leagues stronger than Rebecca. I mean, and not so much Klaus, but he's still very present in this universe. So I think that
Marcel's
that
the strongest creature.
yeah, and
So
so and that's what I mean about this show is that there's not this whole, and who knows if when Hope dies, if she's actually stronger than him. Me personally, I think she would. I think she'd be able to whoop his ass because she's got everything in it. She's basically what he is, but a hybrid, enhanced hybrid, and can use magic. And
yeah,
but if you remember correctly, magic though doesn't really work against those guys. I feel like, I mean, it
it
depends
worked,
on
but
it.
it
Okay,
depends.
I
Like
guess that
because
dungeon
Freya
scene.
was able to
Yeah,
stop
Freya was able to, but
Lucian for a short period of time, but it wasn't
I think
enough.
I
So
think it was because he had all the backs of all the witches,
mhm.
but Marcel doesn't. So I think it doesn't work with Marcel because Marcel was able to be trapped in the dungeon for a while, but and that's
Yeah,
just
so
this.
in theory, Hope would be stronger because it's not like I don't think that his bite would be lethal to her. Not
No,
that he would ever bite her, that's his little
no, and
sister,
that's
but
the thing
still,
though is
yeah.
this whole bite thing being lethal to Klaus made no sense. Made no it, that whole stuff with the thorns and all that type of stuff that this could kill you. Like I was sitting myself thinking like that this makes no sense that this wouldn't be able to kill him. So the bite was to kill an original vampire, just like the daggers are meant to take out an original, but it didn't work. Yeah, just like if the white oak steak, you know what I mean? It a steak wouldn't be able to take out Tyler, a stake to the heart.
Mhm.
They had to be decapitated to be able to. If you remember, Stefan used to walk around with saw blades and would go after Klaus's hybrids that way. So this whole the White Oaks, yeah, there's a lot of freaking plot holes. I don't even know why I love this show. There's so many plot holes
Because
in
it's
it.
still well
It's still really
written.
good. But
Yeah.
what
But
I was
getting back to the episode though,
the field day,
yeah,
that
so
whole Lady the Lake and wanting to finding
someone who was worthy.
a worthy, they're all sitting there and they have the little powwow where the whole school, be it like 30 people, all run, and you have our main characters. You have Milton, you have who else did you have? You had Caleb, Josie, Lizzie, and you had the little kid. I don't know what his name is. He came running in, and then Wade. In this scene, for some reason, I thought it was going to be Wade again, that he was going to be the one that was worthy. That's how much I've lowered my standards for this show. I thought it's got to be Wade. There's no way. I mean, Hope's not there. None of them know that Hope's even, down for the count except for Josie. And I don't
Well,
even know
all
if
this
Lizzie
scene
knows.
really highlighted for me is that they're really out of their depth when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Like they shouldn't be fighting monsters every single week is the first thing I'd want to say. You know what I mean? And it's like without Hope is like such a babysitter in so many ways when it comes to everyone. Like they're all useless without her, even though they try not to be. Like there's still
But
kids who
that's the
haven't and
problem.
like and yeah, it is a problem because Alaric he's sheltered them to the point where it's actually detrimental. And I know Caleb has brought this up to Alaric before. Like, they should be drinking human blood.
Exactly.
And
It's like
like,
they're not even strong. Like I have one of my notes in here is that when like they were all trying to hold back that night that was, that whole night thing with being as corny as it was, I put in my notes, are vampires even strong in this universe at all?
well, I mean, they're all drinking animal
Rabbit.
blood.
Yeah, I
So
mean animal, but still they're strong. They're stronger than the average, you
yes,
know.
they are, but
And so I
they
don't understand
they
how
don't
two
have, and so it's like I'm sure I think Josie mentioned this like before, but they are it's very much a defense based sort of school. So it's like, the witches are only taught defensive spells. The vampires are not allowed to drink human blood, and then the wolves are locked away at night, on the full moon and stuff. So it's just like I feel like even though the school is designed to help them in a lot of ways, I feel like it's detrimental because God forbid the school ever break or closes down for some reason. They would be
Yep.
completely out of their depth when it comes to handling and interacting with society. I just feel
Yep.
like there's a lot of issues overall with the concept of the school. Like in some ways, it's great that there's a place where everyone can feel safe,
Yeah, the
and they're
sound of it, the pitch for the schools, it sounds amazing.
it's great, but where they don't have to worry about they don't have to worry about being found out. They can be themselves to a certain degree, and that's great. But it's like what happens if a vampire from the Salvatore school goes down to New Orleans? It's a completely different environment when it comes to the vampires that live there. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
it's a very,
So
very, it's a violent
it's
place to
it's
be.
it's very, I don't know. There's like once again, Alaric should not be the headmaster, and they address this, but they just decide to bring him back for some reason. But whatever. Anyway,
And
so the monster of the week format is boring. Josie told Lizzie at the last minute that she got rid of her magic. She should have been told Lizzie that she got rid of her magic. The lack of communication between them is like one of their biggest issues, which stems from their unhealthy
why
relationship
even get
dynamics
rid of
all
your
these years.
magic? Like, why even?
Well, it goes back into how they don't know how to cope with their powers or their
Well, yeah,
issues.
and like, but
So,
I didn't know this wasn't even a thing
yeah.
to get rid of your powers. I mean, I'm sorry, I thought siphoners didn't have powers unless they touched something magical.
When I say I don't know, I don't fucking know.
I mean, like,
I do.
if
She
she
put it in
doesn't-
a coin, so I don't know. Dude, I have
How,
no
but
clue,
how
bro.
did she put
Bro,
it in
I
a-
don't know. I
How
don't
did she put
fucking
it in a
know.
coin? Was it a They didn't explain this. Was it a magical coin that she could have done it? Like, where'd she get the juice from?
Big dog, you're
You know what I
asking.
mean?
You're asking me, and the answer is I don't know. I have no
And
clue. So,
so this, I'm gonna segue away from this because that whole scene, with the whole them fighting them trying to have the pep talk about working as a team and all that stuff was really pointless, right? And yeah, I mean, we can skip if we want to conclude the ending to this part because there's a lot more other things that the show that are a lot more interesting than this entire little side. I'm going to call it B-roll footage that was in the show.
it truly is the B plot when it comes to that stuff. Yeah,
And
I don't care about this.
Ralph getting there in a split second when they needed buses to get there was really confusing, especially because wolves aren't that fast on foot running like that compared to vamps.
How far away is the field?
I don't know. The fact that they needed a bus to begin with made me question it. They're like, the buses are waiting for you guys outside, and it's like, okay, what? You needed a bus to go to that? All you supernatural people? Okay. But him being the royal blood, whatever, boring. Okay. I'm gonna talk about what I did like. So
right.
There's one thing, and this is kind of deep. One thing I liked seeing is that even as corny as it was that Hope was not waking up, right? It led to a good scene. It led to an Alaric talking to her about knowing what it feels like to losing someone you love. Now, if there's anybody in the show that can relate to losing somebody, it's Alaric, and it really made me think for a quick second of all the people he's lost. He lost Isabel Fleming, if people know that was Elena's mother. He was married to her for a few years, and then she was a historical researcher at a college, and she was really into the history of Mystic Falls and a little bit aside of vampirism, and she somehow was able to get a hold of Damon Salvatore, and oddly enough, he turned her and killed her, and made her a vampire, which made her leave Alaric. And, oddly enough, they're in the Salvatore house. Damon Salvatore is his best friend. But, so he lost her because she ended up killing herself. I think she was compelled to. I can't remember. And then he dated Jenna Summers, who was turned a vampire for the sun and moon ritual to unlock Klaus's hybrid side. And he dated Dr. Meredith Fell. She's the girl that gave Elena vampire blood when she had hit her head when everybody was trying to slow Klaus's heart down to basically bury him in the ocean. Which then led to Alaric dying because he became also a super vampire, but his life was tied to Elena's at that time. So when she died, he died. And so that kind of relationship, she remarried or she moved to Alaska and remarried. She's still alive, but for some reason she's never really mentioned the show ever again. And then I don't know if you would say he dated or morally co-parented with Caroline. I know that he had feelings for her, but I don't think it was reciprocated at all
It
whatsoever.
wasn't, no.
It was more like you're my uncle type relationship. I mean, it was kind of really weird. But I felt like that scene made me think about all that stuff and him experiencing that, and then obviously him losing his most recent wife, which led to them having the kids and whatnot. That scene for me, I really liked seeing that little snippet. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, it was good. I can definitely agree with that, especially since he looks at Hope like a daughter, you know,
Yes.
and that's why he cares for her so deeply. So that was a good one as well. I can agree with that. Before that scene, Landon and Roth had like a brother sort of scene, and I can really admire how much they care for one another, you know, especially given their history and the circumstances surrounding that. But when I tell you that I don't care about Landon being dead, I fucking mean it. So, you know,
Well, what
like,
it was this scene before or after this whole the hero board that they made, the
uh,
cringy ass hero board that they made, and this whole show being
it was
about
during. It was during.
heroes, like Lizzie asking Milton, "What's your hero name gonna be?" and or them writing, "What would a hero do?" and all this type of stuff. Like, bro, none of you are like that. None of you have the hero hair like Stefan had. None of you are like bad. You guys are just existing in this
I mean,
universe.
they're kids, man. They're teenagers who haven't really had to deal with anything.
Yeah, it doesn't
In
seem
theory, in theory, we don't actually know a lot of their backstories. You know, like we don't know a
well.
lot of their backstories. We know MG's and we know Hope's, but
And I think
and that's it,
MG
really.
had his backstory. I like.
Yeah,
I
me
like
too.
MG. I thought that backstory was pretty damn powerful. They explained it really well. I gotta give a hats off to that. I really liked it. And if we go to another one of my favorite scenes, and I have to admit, this is probably my favorite. My only scene of Landon's that I like is the necromancer dragging him in to the living room. And first off, I want to say, Alaric thinking another problem can be solved with the fucking crossbow. When is he ever solved a problem with the crossbow? Can we just think about that for a second? When
I
is
can't.
any he grabs his crossbow every time. Like, I'm gonna go kill the necromancer with a crossbow.
Maybe
Makes
he wants to feel.
it's his
Uh,
I don't know, it's his hero thing, I guess. But him opening the door and the necromancer coming in and look like he's strangling something, and they don't really right off the bat tell you what's going on. But you kind of have an idea from the beginning of the episode. But Landon refusing to come back alive. Okay, I have to tip my hat. That was kind of fun to see, and seeing the necromancer, who I'm also just tired of, being frustrated about it, I thought was funny. How they resolved it was super stupid. Like how Ralph wanted him to put him in his body. That's so dumb. That
yeah,
was
but my issue with Landon wanting to stay dead is that he's got this hero complex in the sense that he so badly wants to be seen as useful that he ends up trying to make these decisions that end up not being well thought out, even though he is like one of the characters who has a brain, you know what I mean? So it's like
he's definitely
he
one of the smartest characters.
he's yeah, so he once again they are all fucking useless without Hope, you know? They're all useless without Hope. So it's like they all look up to Hope because she protects them and they all want to be heroes, like you said, but it's like they're so obsessed with this idea and they haven't really experienced any real hardship that they go about it in a silly manner. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like on okay. Uh First of all, in episode 216, Hope said that a non-consensual kiss is never the answer. But then in this episode, which would have been the episode slated right after it, right?
Yeah.
17, Landon gives her a non-consensual kiss and then she wakes up. Now, I personally think that there's a reason why they had this happen and why it was written like this, but I don't want to spoil you, but I'm letting you know that I personally think there's a reason why it was written like this. But like looking back on it when I first watched it, I was just like, but why though? Like, why would they do this? And I don't think it's because they forgot. I really think they had to have written it that way for a reason, you know? But Landon kissing Hope and then Hope waking up doesn't actually make any fucking sense. Like, why? Why does she wake up? Like, what is going on? Like, I don't get it, you know?
I don't think, it doesn't makes no sense. And I don't know if it was a playback off of the corny, I don't know if there's a worse word for it. Was it the inside Josie's head being a Little Red Riding Hood thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's just as thing, yeah. It's just as corny as that was. I mean, that was. I'm gonna be real honest with you. When I saw that, right? When I when I saw the pig, I grabbed my remote and I pressed fast forward. I was just like, no. And I heard your voice like laughing in my head. I was just like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it's you know,
I skipped all of that.
Like, when it comes to Josie's mental state, it's very much something that is her the way she views things is very black and white, which is why she had it categorized as a fairy tale. You know what I mean? And she played like the damsel in distress / the weak, pathetic pig, and then Hope was Little Red Riding Hood, but like a badass Little Red Riding Hood and stuff. And then the wolf was the evil queen all mixed into one. Like her, and it's why Dark Josie, as people call her, was very cartoonishly evil, in my opinion, right? Because the Josie's viewpoint on what's good and what's evil is so skewed. You know what I mean?
See, like for me, I must have skipped some episodes because I don't remember the whole. When I jumped back into it, all of a sudden, like there was this darkness in a little sand thing, right? The
sand clock,
yeah, sand clock. It was in that, and I'm like, man, I must have missed something. But I felt no need to go back and watch it. But seeing her as the quote unquote the having the darkness in her when they were in the prison world, I was like, okay, I liked. She's like, I could see more clearly than I've ever. And how she worked, like there's a spell affecting my mind right now, and how she dug and like, you know, made everybody's memory come back. That was cool. Like I thought, okay, there's your power chess piece that's besides Hope now. Like I really like that. But then when she came out, all of a sudden it was like the darkness was like some stuck up teenager with a vendetta instead of being like an ancient darkness of power. Like it was all of a sudden, I'm going to throw a birthday party and we're going to have the merge.
Joke of the merge, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'm like,
which is really unfortunate because it's something that is so significant in the series. You know what I mean?
I just thought that her being with the darkness at one point in time, it was super cool. I liked it. Like her seeing that Malivore had a eyeball in the hallway, and then he's looking at her. And next thing you know, she's right behind him. I thought that was cool. Yeah. I thought that was super cool. But they ruin it with the dialogue and how they made her act like she was just some child. Like I said, not some ancient darkness that she had, and just because obviously the darkness had its own self-conscious or its own consciousness. At least it felt like it did.
Yeah, but it's still something that was a part of Josie, though. You know, it was kind of, it was like her inner, like the reason why it manifested the way that it did, and that's why we probably have not seen something of the same scope. I mean, because we did see, we've seen something similar-ish with, remember when Vincent was talking to, what the fuck was that thing called? He had that journal. The Hollow. When Vincent was affected by the Hollow, and that was scary. You know, that was scary because he couldn't remember the things that he had been doing, you know?
Yeah.
So we've seen something like that before, but it's like the way that they had it written in this is just, it's, I don't know. Like, I don't know what they're doing, to be
Imagine just
honest.
putting the hollow in a time clock. Would we even be here, or a sand clock? Like, what? Like, how could she just remove all that power into a sand clock?
Yeah, I just I don't know, like, like I said, I feel like the biggest issue is that Hope has had some like real life experience. She's lived through some really dire things, like, surviving the Hollow and surviving in New Orleans as long as she did, when she would go back and visit. And it's like, well, when I mean, she grew up there, and then she went back. She went to the school when she was like 9 or something, and then she came back to visit after she fucked up in season 5. But it's like, when she sat down, she told Josie, like, things aren't black and white. She's a part of you, like this darkness. You just have to own it. I just feel like I'm waiting and I'm ready for the show to have that switch and have it actually be interesting and dark, because as it stands right now, it's very much a CW teen show, which is okay, but it's also kind of like I'm getting very bored with a lot of the plot points that they've brought forth. Like, the Necromancer is boring, Malivore is boring, Landon dying every 5 seconds is boring. Landon and Hope's relationship is boring. Like, I'm not interested in any of these points, despite the fact that I continue to watch the show. You know what I mean? But that's just me personally. These characters can be really interesting, but it's like the plot surrounding them, it's like very cartoony. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the writers aren't doing the characters any favors whatsoever. Yeah. And I want to like these characters, but I'm the most one of the most interesting characters to even come onto the show is Sebastian. And I mean, because he was just about as old as Damon and Stefan, and
God, let me get started with my issues. First of all, I just find it sick behavior of the show to have Lizzie dating Sebastian, right?
Right.
And then, and then 3 episodes later, 4 episodes later, whatever, right? Whatever, right? The show's like, Josie can't date Jade because Jade is older than her, and it's like, oh, I was your babysitter and blah blah. I'm like, and that's kind of creepy. Every relationship on this show is technically fucking creepy, because all the vampires are old as dust, and these are teenage girls, okay? Teenage fucking girls, or teenage boys in the case of Matt and Rebecca. All right.
Yep, 164 years old, and he's dating a 17-year-old Nina Dobrev or Elena.
Exactly. So why is it now that this is a fucking issue? Now that it's fucking a gay relationship.
Probably because there's a parent now. I don't know. Maybe because none of these other characters had parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Alaric was really against Lizzie dating Sebastian. That's true.
And Elena didn't have a parent figure to tell her she couldn't date Stefan.
Yeah.
And Bonnie never had a parent figure saying that she couldn't date Enzo.
Yeah.
Or any other character. And Cammy was of age for Klaus.
Yes, she was. But then there was Caroline, who was not of age for Klaus.
Oh, so no, not an age for Damon. Now you want to think about, go back with Damon basically compelling.
I mean, he was compelling her while they were sleeping with her.
He was
sick behavior, and it's mostly just sick because I like, there's just like this double standard, and I don't know, the show doesn't understand what tone it wants to continue putting forth when it comes to its messaging.
That they swept that whole thing kind of under the rug, like it was never really talked about ever again.
Yeah.
That basically Damon raped Caroline.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But because she was compelled, it was consensual. I mean, she's been with just as many Salvatores as, Elena. And I don't know. They kind of sweep that under, they really swept that under the rug. I felt like it was never brought up, like, with Caroline when she turned a vampire, because I just had recently seen this, when she says, I remember everything. It was never even like brought up that was done, and it was to this day it's kind of weird to me.
I mean, honestly speaking, there's just so many background issues when it comes to this stuff, and I feel like this show is trying to be better when it comes to these kinds of issues and being more self-aware. But what, like I said, what bothers me is that there's a double standard there where it's like, if Lizzie dating Sebastian is a problem, then have it be a problem and have her not date him at all, like let that not be a thing that happens, instead
Yep.
of being like, oh, Jade and Josie can't date because Jade was Josie's babysitter, even though she didn't fucking watch her grow up. So like, what the fuck show? Anyway, this show, I don't know, dude. I love Legacies.
Damon sleeping with, Elena's mom.
Yep. So I mean, like I said, I love this show. Clearly there has to be some different writers with this show in comparison to the originals, and also the Vampire Diaries, because it's like it's been a decade, but that being a decade plus, that being said, I really love this show, genuinely I do, which is why I want it to be better. But at the same time, I feel like people are a little bit too harsh on the writers, but there are also times where they deserve it, because this episode was all over the place in regards to writing and plot and storytelling, and I really need them to be done with the monster of the week formula. Or you know what, that's actually fine, keep the monster of the week formula. I'm sick of Malivore. Are you sick of Malivore? I'm sick of Malivore.
I am. I want there to be a traveler issue. I want there to be a strong witch issue. I want there to be a vampire. I want a Strix. Bring us the Strix. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have them come in. I want to see some vampires come in there and attack the kids there, which is really messed up if you think about it. See them come in there, and I want to see Hope kick some ass. I want to see Alaric get this shit rocked out of him for trying to stand up to a 900-year-old vampire that's on a rage to kill the last Michelson.
Yeah.
Or one of the last Michelsons. And then my fanboyish take is that I want to see Marcel come in there and snap a neck. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that this show needs to do, and I feel like we won't ever get it. I feel like the actors from the last shows are done. I feel like they're more of, we've done everything we need to do. I mean, it's gotten to the point now that Joseph Morgan blocks people now for if they ask questions on his live stream about going back to being Klaus. He blocks them, which I find just weird from outside looking in, thinking like, hey, if you played such a beloved character and like you have this huge fan base for this character, why wouldn't you do everything that you could to get back into that and make some easy money?
Maybe he has a resentment because he hasn't really done anything since. Anything notable,
I mean, but you're still made you live a nice life. You met that show, gave you the love of your life, his wife, Bonnie's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And, this, you would one would just think that you would do that. And I know that a lot of the cast members from those shows are really close to each other. Like Phoebe and what's her name? Claire are really close. They just partnered up on the clothing line together. I can't believe I'm letting people know that I follow this type of stuff. But they started or are now ambassadors of this clothing line together. And, Claire's doing a lot of, body positivity stuff for mothers and like a blogging type stuff. And, I don't know if the show is even a good fit for her to even want to come back on, but I feel like
Claire
she should.
said that she would be good with coming back. So the show just hasn't reached out yet.
I feel like the writers overthink things to bring characters like that back. They say it needs to feel natural, but literally you're doing so many things that make the show feel unnatural that you're hurting the show. You really are.
That being said, one of the writers who worked on the originals, I think, did state a couple weeks ago in like this, she was arguing with people on Twitter about some stuff, and she stated that the show is one of the network's like best shows in regards to how it's doing, so maybe if it's on long enough, it'll actually have a compelling plot one day. But I don't know, dude.
I mean, it definitely
I don't
doesn't now.
know.
This whole Malivore thing needs to be over.
I'm with you, dude.
It and how they introduced it was clever. You know, if they're in the pit, they can't remember you. But then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, if Josie was able to sit there and say, "As the darkness, there's a spell affecting my mind," you're telling me that the super powerful witches of like Esther and who else, even the Hollow
Yeah.
or even Hope, can't tell that there's a spell, or another one,
Yeah, that's
what's her
actually a
name,
really Dahlia.
Dahlia. You're telling me that all those witches couldn't tell that there was a spell affecting their minds?
Damn, that's actually a really good point. That's a good point, bro. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
you're
know
right.
that darkness is not, and that darkness and Dahlia probably could go toe to toe with each other, or
Yeah.
even Freya. Or you're telling me Freya couldn't tell that there was something, funking with her mind? I mean, it's a big
Maybe
big
I don't
plot
know.
hole. But little old Josie, little siphoner with some magic in her that technically, with her natural abilities, should have been siphoned through and used. That's another thing I always think about. That the best thing to happen to those girls for them would be for them to turn into vampires.
I agree, which is why I think they made them siphoners in the first place, to have that be a plot point for a future. So which one would you want to see as a vampire, Lizzie or Josie?
Lizzie.
Yeah, me too. I would want to see Heretic
I want to
Lizzie.
see her, but I'm worried. I'm not worried. Why would I be worried about this? I'm excited because it amplifies the type of person you are. And if she is just naturally a bitch, she's going to be a fun vampire.
Yeah, I agree. I can definitely agree. And then it would work out because I think they're angling to have, and I know you hate the ship stuff, but I will talk about the ships for anyone who might be listening who's into that stuff. But they're angling to have MG and Lizzie probably be end game, so it would work out since he's a vampire too.
And if I'm being honest, that's the only relationship in the show that I think remotely works for anything. So
there aren't any other relationships in the show. I pretend I do not see Handon.
Yeah. Is there a name for how people hate him? Like a Hayton or like Borland or something like that? Any ship names for him and boring?
They call him like I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of people who don't like him.
Like for pointless land and Pointland. I mean, yeah, his character is absolutely pointless. It really is. So
I blame the writers for having him. I mean, him and Hope together is kind of like sucking the life out of their characters.
What do you even see? What does her as her character even see in his character? I mean, I'm not saying like because he's not like some strong person.
No, this is what I think. I think he's the last connection to her, her father and her uncle, because she was with him the night that Klaus and Elijah decided to commit suicide together.
No, she wasn't.
Yeah, she was with Landon. They had that decade dance.
But she wasn't with them. She was at the compound with Rebecca, Marcel, Cole, and
okay, it was in the same week then. How about that?
She had the
it was within the same week. They had that dance or whatever, and
yes,
Landon
and
was
Klaus,
like,
Klaus and Caroline. Klaus said, "I'm here to watch my daughter have a dance with the townie." That's what he referred to Landon as, and it's something that he wanted to see before he moved on. And that was when Caroline got the vibes that, holy shit, Klaus is going to kill himself type of deal. So that's which led her down to New Orleans. And I will say this, as far as shipping games go, I will say that I love Stefan, but I always wanted to see that dynamic between Klaus and Caroline. I really did. I thought that was kind of like,
despite the issues, they were super cute. So, but yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, he was like I said, within that week or whatever.
In the whole putting the whipped cream at the bottom of the milkshake with Elijah, and I mean, I guess so if you reach far enough, you could.
That's the explanation I have, is that he is a connection to that, you know what I mean? And her mom was also like, you know, have at least one totally epic love, and she's referred to her love with Landon as an epic love, you know. So I think she's like holding on so tightly because she wants to live up to that expectation that Haley had, I guess.
And see, they have that when they're in that bathtub and the shower kicked on, everything, they try to put that music on that, you know, that Damon and Elena would have, or Elijah and Haley would have, and or Klaus and Camille. They put that music on, and I sit there and I'm just like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing for this relationship.
That's because the relationship doesn't work. Remember that one episode where Hope was affected by the Quran, and she spent the entire episode like insulting Landon. Do you remember that?
Yep, I do.
Like, they're just not good for each other.
Yep. And this whole time, she's like, every time there's a choice between Landon or her friends, she's not always choosing her friends. She's never choosing Landon.
Yep.
So, and I'm curious, like, as soon as we're done with this show, I'm like, okay, I want to see the next episode. I really do. So I honestly can't wait. I kind of want to watch 2 in a row just because I want to see. I've seen some pictures of some things like on TikTok that have shown up, some little snippets about some stuff, and I'm like, okay, now I can see why Luca's kind of into it, and I'm like, I need to see this. I need to see violence. That's what I want. I want to see violence in this show.
Okay, well, I guess we'll end it here. So overall, do you want to score the episode?
4.
Oh yeah, I'm giving it like a 4 as well. Unfortunately, I just wasn't all that interested in it. It was an okay episode. And I understand, like, it's not really fitting for a season finale, but, you know, it's technically not a season finale, so whatever. But hopefully we can, I don't know, man, we can
go. It can only go up.
Do you have any, let's see here, spoilers or I'm not predictions. Do you have any predictions for future episodes for next ep?
Well, it's not like they really gave us much to go off this episode. I mean, I know that Hope's awake in the next episode. To be honest, the type of episode that we had with you really can't tell what's going on any further with a filler episode. You know what I mean? And I hated that with one of my favorite shows ever too, Supernatural. But Supernatural had really good filler episodes, even though that they were filler. They were very good. They were so I
didn't really think of any episode as a filler episode.
Right. There was an episode that was considered a filler where they were going on what they called a regular old ghost hunt, and that ghost ended up trapping Dean in the ghost world, and he was pulled out by the Reaper and shown the library and all that type of stuff. And you're like, see, this is how you do a filler episode. You fill the plot. You know what I mean? You kind of go back and forth. Or the episode where they're hunting, they're in a haunted house that time doesn't exist. There's some type of creature there that exists in all times. And so he was there. Dean was in this dimension at the same time Bobby was, like 30 years beforehand. And I think that Bobby thinks that he saw Dean in there because he was there at the exact same moment in time as him and his buddy. I can't remember who his fucking buddy was, but he was that duo between Bobby and his old hunting buddy were just amazing. But
do you think Legacies, if they continue with the Monster of the Week formula, will ever have a monster that's actually as scary as some of the ones that were especially in the early seasons of Supernatural?
No, because they're focusing too much on fairy tale ones. They really are. And the funny part is that Supernatural even did said that the Oz is real. Wizard of Oz is real, right? They went that, or a fairy dimension, fairy world, or the imaginary things are real. Imaginary friends that kids have when they're younger, that they're actually real. And it was good. The fairy guy reminds me of that fairy or imaginary friend was, and I think I've told you this before, in Supernatural. And Sam's like, Dean, this is my imaginary friend from when I was a kid. And Dean looks at him and is like, I'm going to get my gun. You know what I mean? Like that they did filler episodes so well in that show, and in this show, I feel like they're in Legacies. I feel like they're trying to do too much with it, trying to balance too many storylines.
I feel like they know what they're doing, but they also don't know what they're doing. Like that's the vibe that I get. Because, like I said, they sometimes they do things really well, and it's really well written. And it's like, oh, I can see where they're going with this. But then other times, I'm kind of like, man, this Christmas episode was real bad.
That episode where they go into that what's that prison? It's not a prison world, but they go into the mental prison where you have to find the thing, like your word or whatever. What's that called?
The box.
But it's not even a box. Like
it's a box.
It's a shaman something.
No, I mean like it's a box.
Well, they manifest it in a box in that show, but it's not a box at all, and you don't have to be in the same room to do it. If you remember, Hope, I think it's a shaman Lashas, something like that. I can't remember, but Hope put everybody in it in a lot of different places, and they didn't even know about it. And
okay, I know exactly what you're referring to. And
a shaman the
shah or something. Did I fucking know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
But like they weren't finding like magical words or like having epiphanies of who they were. It was like find something in this place that represents you, and it's a key, and for you to get out. Like that, how they represent it in that show was stupid, and how they made them turn into like an old 40s or 30s like crime investigative scene. I was so bored of that.
I think that is something different though. What they use, and Alaric explained
it was a tweaked version. They said it was some professor's tweaked version of a shaman Dashash. I'm butchering that every time, but I know that they learned it from Cole because Cole was familiar with it. I'm pretty sure Cole's the one that taught Hope that stuff. Because if you remember, Cole in his younger, I wouldn't say younger days, but his early vampire days when he split off from the group.
Yeah, and he hung out with witches then.
Yeah, he hung out with a lot of witches and shamans and made that secret underground lair, witch laboratory with all the magical gems. And God damn it, I missed that show in comparison to this stupid. Oh my God. But yeah, this show is missing things like that. And you know what also the show's missing?
What?
Flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to flash back? They're all teenagers.
Well, I know, but you could still flash back to some time in their life that was important. That kind of.
Well, that's what I mean when I said we don't really know anything about any of these
MGs. They did it. They did it good for. They did it good for MG. Why couldn't they do it for Caleb? Why can't they do it for Alyssa? Why can't they do it for even Wade? Let us know who these characters or Ralph.
Okay, so I looked it up. Stage. It is a alternate version of a Shambe de Chasse, and their consciousness will be transferred to better deal with their trauma. So it's like an alternate version of it.
It's a PG-13 version. Where they get put into a crime investigative scene, but regardless of what it was, that was just a bad episode.
It's not always like it's not always the same. It's not always the same. Depending on who's going in there. Sometimes it'll be different. Well,
yeah, it'd be different. Like one time it was Klaus, Elijah, Cole, and
in a cabin.
And what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on the fourth brother. Oh my God. Vincent, not Vincent. God damn it. Finn. Yeah, I thought you said Vin.
No, Finn. I said Finn. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all locked in the family's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so it could just it goes to, you know, wherever, and like they had said that like it will go as a collective mind, it will choose, but like what it chose, like I'm sure all those kids were thinking of a 30s, you know, mystery who done it murder case. I'm sure they were all thinking that.
Well, considering the fact that they're not allowed any electronics, it's completely plausible. You
Quit
know,
damage controlling it, Luca.
listen. I'm just saying. You know,
Like you'd have think that they would have just taken place in the school, kind of how it was. I mean, that was kind of having it all black and white. I know it's fun for the actors maybe to do, and maybe that's why they do those shows. But like, I can't imagine waiting all week for a show and then getting that to watch instead of, you know, an episode that furthers the plot.
well, technically, it did further the plot because it let people know that Josie had some issues going on. You know, that she was still affected, even though the fact that they all thought that the darkness just, I don't know, dissipated into the fucking wind when she came back from the prison world is something else entirely. Like, they're just like, none of them are street smart, you know, like they're just like, they just don't know what they're doing. The kids, that is, like, they've just never experienced anything real, in my opinion, based off what we've seen from the series so far.
Yep, could have been. They all are thinking about a movie that Damon had in the basement.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, overall, I give the show a 4.
The episode.
You're
like, no, Luca, the entire show.
No, the entire show. So far, I would probably give a 6 or 7.
I would give the entire show so far an 8, because there's only been a couple of episodes where I've been like, what the fuck, you know? Most of the time, I can like take a step back and see. Even though, like, in my opinion, I feel like there's a lack of a overarching plot, other than like the Malivore and Necromancer stuff. But I don't care about any of those. But I can't deny the fact that they exist. But I also just like don't care about them. You know? Yeah. I guess like because like in the originals and in the Vampire Diaries, there was a big bad. There was something they need to overcome for every season, like something that was actually like a threat. You know? Yeah. And like, you know, the originals, it was just always a variation of different kinds of witches. And then there was the Strix, and they had Aurora and Tristan and Lucian come, which was really interesting, you know?
That was an amazing season, to be honest with you.
I feel like every season was amazing. Even season 4, despite the fact that season 4 obviously was rushed because they cut the episodes, you know, the network. But I still thought it was like really good. They weren't even
planning on having a 5th season. Mm-hmm. They had already filmed season 4, and they thought they were done. And then they got renewed like after it was all filmed and done. So then they had to scramble the hell, like, what are we going to do? And then they just kind of, because, you know, part of me wishes that it would have ended on season 4. If I'm being real honest with you, I wish it would have ended season 4.
Well, at least everyone would still be alive.
Yeah, and then, you know, and Hope would have still went to the school. Haley would still be alive. Elijah, Klaus. I mean, everybody would still be alive, and they could have just been off in hiding. And yeah.
And that could have ended up leading to some interesting dynamics as well.
The Hollow. Hope. They could have went back to fighting up the Hollow. You know what I mean?
Damn, Legacies is trash, bro. No, okay, let me stop. No, I do genuinely like the show. I do. But I mostly watch it for the characters, you know? I really like the characters. So, all right. Anyway, we can end it on that note. And, you know, you're going to watch the next episode?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I'm going to rewatch the next episode, and we'll see what we have to say. So far, I think season 3 has been okay. There's been some episodes that were like really, really good. And then there's been some episodes where I'm like, So, you know, I'm really interested to see your perspective and viewpoint on that. And for anyone who's listening, thanks for everything. Thanks for listening. And we will catch you guys for the next one. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Bye.